Goat's cheese puff pizza is absolutely a favourite of mine, and we have it on our vegetarian menu in the restaurant, and also in the cookery school we get the students to make it as a starter. I'm going to talk about the base in a moment, but I want to get the topping ready, so I do. So there's a lot of chopping in this, so I've already started it. I want to show you the whole technique of doing what we call a brunoise. So it's like a ratatouille, but we're going to put tomatoes, peppers, courgettes. You can use aubergines, you can use onions in it, garlic, all that, but I'll go through all this. I just want to show you what we're going to do. So just with a little bit of pepper, the yellow pepper, you cut it into little strips like this. So this strip here is called a julienne. You curve your fingers, and then if you can, try and cut the vegetables as small as you can. Now when you get a little bit more practice, you don't need to lift the knife off the board. You can just rock it like that, but once you curve your fingers, that is the key. So I'll just show you what I mean like that. Curve your fingers and the knife will never touch the tips of your fingers. Okay, just a little bit more yellow pepper in here. So I'm using some yellow, some green and some red pepper, so I have that all kind of diced. We're going to put this onto the plate, and then we're going to do our courgette. So when you're chopping, make sure you keep your, just focus on what you're doing. So that's what we call a brunoise there. So nice, look at all that lovely colour there on the plate. Okay, courgette next. I'll just do half of this. You can use aubergine, use whichever kind of vegetables you like. I'm going to heat up my pan, have that preheated, just turn it low down. So look at the lovely colour there. So I'm going to slice this. Now see, when you get here, you hold it either side and just go right down. Same for here. Hold it either side, and then you can just layer it up. We'll just do these 3 here, and then we'll do the other 2. So you gather them up, curving the finger again. This is actually the hardest part of the recipe, is doing your chopping. And it's a great little garnish, this, because this will keep, and it's lovely in couscous. Look at that lovely colour. So I'm going to put this onto the plate using the knife. See the way I scoop that up there? So we have that all done there now. I'll just do the other parts here. So you can use yellow courgette if you want to. We're just using the regular green courgette. And sometimes courgettes, they can be quite insipid. You need to get flavour in there. So I'm going to show you how we can jazz this up with some pesto, really good tomatoes, and some lovely fresh basil. So just rock that over and back. See the way I'm doing that? Never take your eyes. That's why I'm not looking at the camera. Perfect. So that's what we call a brunoise. If you've ever heard of that, it's just a small little cube of vegetable. Now in the restaurant we cut that a wee bit smaller, but that's perfect. You don't have to get out the measuring tape, don't worry. Okay, we're going to cook this with some extra virgin olive oil. So this is it here. So we have the PGI, Protected Geographical Indication. So a nice good drizzle of this is going to go in there. Turn up the heat. And then what we're going to do is just start the cooking process. So as I say, you can put in some crushed garlic, some onion. That's what you want to hear. A preheated pan. So this is my skillet pan, and this is my favourite, shall I say, piece of cooking equipment in my collection. I absolutely think it's brilliant. Now I'm going to soften this here just for a few minutes, or start the cooking, not even soften it. Into this we're going to put in some double concentrated tomato puree. So I'm going to put in 2 spoonfuls of that into the pan. We're also going to put in these beautiful tomatoes, and the tomatoes I'm using is the San Marzano tomatoes. So they're from Puglia. These are the chopped ones, or you can use the plum ones and just crush them up either with your hand, or what you can do is just chop them too, whichever. They're the same tomato. So we're going to put that all in there, and then we're going to stir this right through here. So give it a really good stir here. So those tomatoes are definitely worth having in your kitchen cupboard. They're really good in ragu, really good with pasta. They are good. There's something about the sun in Italy. It's very intense. The flavour of the basil of tomatoes is just, it's very unique, to be honest with you. So I'm just stirring this all through here. You can see that lovely colours. Now we're going to put salt and pepper into this, and then we're going to let this cook. I'm also going to put some fresh basil into it, and then pesto, really important, some pesto. So I'm going to use some of this salt here. This is from Clogherhead. Again, they have the PGI, Protected Geographical Indication. It means that this salt can only be produced in Clogherhead. Really, really good producer. Some black pepper works really well. I remember my mother used to do a very rustic version of this with aubergine and all that, and we used to serve it for a Sunday lunch I'm talking over 20 years ago. But it's incredible the way the Irish palate has changed, because I think years ago people mightn't have got this or understood it, but nowadays we're very adventurous. I think the Irish palate is very sophisticated. So salt and pepper in there. We're going to put in a little bit of fresh basil. Before I just put in the basil, I'm going to put in some pesto. So this is some pesto that we make in the restaurant. There's some basil, some toasted pine nuts, some garlic, some Parmesan cheese, extra virgin olive oil, and we use some rapeseed oil. But you can get this lovely fresh pesto here. So this is an ambient or a refrigerator product. It's really, really good. They also do an ambient one too, the Simply Better one. So it just means that it's just has a longer shelf life. So I'm going to put in 2 spoonfuls of this. Now make sure that you taste it, and this will keep in your fridge for up to a week, and it's absolutely delicious. Like, if you look at the colour there, it's so colourful and vibrant, and it just looks great, so it does. Now we're going to put in a little bit of basil, and that's the topping done. You're just going to let that cook for a few minutes. I'm just going to roll up my basil, fresh basil, and we're going to chop this. Now normally you wouldn't chop fresh basil, but it's going straight in there, because if I leave that just sitting there for 20 minutes, even 10 minutes, it's going to go black because it bruises. So that goes in there. Hard to beat fresh basil, and those little plants that are behind me, they're definitely worth picking up. They're gorgeous, so they are. And basil is one of my favourite herbs. Okay, so that is the topping. I'm going to let that cook away. I'm just going to put my spatula over there, just let that simmer away, and now we're going to talk to you just about the actual base. So you can put this topping on a pita bread, on pizza bases, whatever you want to. I'm going to show you the technique of doing a puff pastry base, which I think is lovely and light. So this is butter puff pastry. We get this from a company called BD Foods. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same big knife here. I'm going to cut this right down. Okay. And then we're going to cut it in half. So it's hard to beat the butter in the pastry. Now usually for the students, what we do is we get circular cutters, and we cut them out like a large cookie cutter. But with this here, doing it like this, if you get the ready rolled puff pastry, you're going to have no waste when you cut them into squares. Parchment paper, and then we put our 2 pieces of puff pastry literally on the parchment paper, and then you prick it with a fork. So puff pastry is made with a process called lamination. So what that means, the pastry is turned, it's rolled, it's turned. So it's actually lots and lots of layers, and it's one of the most difficult pastries to make, and to make consistent, and to make right. But I think for me, the butter is the key. Parchment paper on top like that, and you know, like a vol au vent, the way it rises, we don't want this to happen. We want it to rise a little bit, but what I want to happen is it to be really crisp. So that's why you put the tray on top of that, so it kind of compresses it. So that's exactly what you want. So if you just look again, we have the parchment paper. You have 2 little squares, or you can use rounds, it doesn't really matter. Parchment paper on top, and then the tray on top. That goes into the oven. I have already some done, because these took about 14 minutes. Sometimes they take 12, 14 minutes or thereabouts. So I'll just pop them into the oven. I already have some done. The oven is at 200, so it's a good hot oven. And then when they come out, you just let them sit. So these are still warm. This is what I want here. And that's your puff pastry. So it's beautiful and golden brown. The topping is done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our lovely topping. So if you just have a little look at this, make sure at the taste it doesn't need any more salt. You know, that's really important. I think it needs a wee bit more. Just a tiny wee bit. You see, seasoning is a very personal thing. Chefs, we love our salt. Food is all about taste, texture, and good ingredients. If you don't have good ingredients, I don't think you can cook really beautiful food. So we're going to talk about the cheese now in a moment. This topping is really nice with a pan-fried piece of fish. It really is gorgeous, even with grilled chicken. If you make some pasta, you can cook some pasta separately and stir this in. It'll keep for at least a week in your fridge, which is brilliant, and you can stir it into couscous. So I'm just going to the edge of the pastry here, and I'm going to do another one here, and then we're going to do our goat's cheese. So just spoon this in here. So how quick is that? The smaller you chop the vegetables, the quicker they will cook. That's the biggest tip I can give you, or the most important tip. So it's nice small little dice, and then you can stir this into some Have it cold, have it warm if you want to. It's always nicer hot, I think so. Okay, cheese next. Just move this out of the way, place it there. So we have two different cheeses here. This first one is a little bowly cheese, and then we have a nice little soft cheese. So they're both soft, they're not strong. To be honest with you, I've yet to taste a really soft, really strong Irish goat's cheese. I think this one is really nice here because it keeps its shape. It doesn't melt. You can do this with some mozzarella if you want to, but it's really, really good. And you know, we're in a great time for Irish food producers. You look at Sheraton's cheese, what they've done for, you know, the whole cheese industry in Ireland. It's fantastic. In Cavan we have Corleggy cheese, you have Centola, they're based in Clare. So there's lots of really lovely cheese producers. Now this is a soft crumbly one that I'm just going to place. So this is the Ardsala goat's cheese here. Okay, so a little bit of that. And then I want to put some pesto onto this and then just literally pop this into the oven. And it'll be done in a minute. I'm going to make a quick salad dressing and then we serve up. So if you want to do this, say you want this for a lunch, you could have everything done. I forgot to say the bases will keep in an airtight container for easily up to a week. So everything you can be made ahead. So a little bit of black pepper. I think that works really well. I'll just show you there, Mela. And then that goes into the oven. So the bases are still warm, they're not cold. The topping is warm, so it's not going to take long. I just want to soften and just warm through the goat's cheese. So while that's on there, we're going to make a quick salad dressing. I'm going to move this out of the way. So when you're making a salad dressing, you can do it in a jug or a blender. I'm just going to do it in the Kilner jar. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use, say this is about 2 tablespoons of oil. And this is extra virgin olive oil. And then we're going to use some of this nice balsamic vinegar. This is a 3-year-old balsamic vinegar. So I'm going to maybe half of this. So you usually use twice the amount of oil to vinegar. So that goes in there. Perfect. A little bit of whole grain mustard. This is optional. You may like it, you may not. It's up to you. I've said before that I like mustard. I'm not a huge, you know, I don't love it, but I think it's really nice in salad dressings. And then a tiny little drizzle of some nice honey here. So this is from Eleven Foods based in Kilkenny. And then literally a pinch of salt, black pepper, and then I'm just going to put the lid on this and I'm going to shake this and then we're going to serve up. Okay, so just give it a really good shake. You can crush some garlic, good workout, pretend you're a cocktail maker and give this a really, really good shake. Normally what we do when we make our dressing, we kind of blend it with the food processor. And that's what we have there. I'll just show you now, just get the spoon. And you always just dress just at the last minute. So you have the little pieces of whole grain mustard, you have the vinegar, and you also have the oil. Okay, I'm going to get my plate. We're going to get our lovely salad here. We're going to mix up the salad just at the very last moment. Just mix this all up and then we're going to get our pizzas which are in the oven. So be careful taking them out. The oven is at 200. Wow, they look good. So I'll just turn around the tray so you can see them. So see the difference in the pastry, not in the pastry. This one here is just the round shape. I'll just serve this one up. Very carefully lift it up onto the plate. And then we have this lovely kind of like sriracha sauce. We're going to put little dots of this just around the plate. We would make a homemade chili jam in the restaurant. Just to garnish your plate there. A nice little bit of salad. And then for a nice little bit of freshness, some toasted pine nuts. That little edible flower is called a viola flower. That's from our garden. And there we have our goat's cheese puff pizza. Made with puff pastry, really nice good Irish goat's cheese, that lovely Mediterranean vegetable. Serve it some pesto and salad. There you go. It's light, beautiful, everything can be made ahead. So I hope you try this recipe and happy cooking.